Hello, how are you today? Thanks for clicking on this video. Well, I complain about MAGA and Republicans a lot on this channel, but today I'm going to complain about the progressives because I think that they are as much of a problem and I do not like them either. I think that progressives have a lot of the same underlying problems as Republicans. It's just they fancy themselves as liberal and trendy, and they care about things such as like LGBT rights, like that's a priority for them, and things like healthcare, even though Obama pushed healthcare and established a healthcare system that a lot of Americans enjoy now. But anyway, I feel like a lot of progressives, a lot of them are liberals, but they're racist. So they really don't like how, when you talk about mainstream Democrats, you're talking about a lot of black people who have a lot of influence and sway in that party. And I don't think that a lot of liberals and progressives appreciate that. So they fall behind people such as Bernie Sanders and AOC, who I both think are pretty darn phony. Both of them right now are having rallies around the country and they're drawing pretty large crowds. I have not taken the time to listen to their rallies or really see what they're talking about, but I can tell you what I don't hear them talking about, and they don't really seem to be doing a lot to speak up for like some of these people that are being deported, some of these students that are having their visas revoked. And oddly enough, a lot of these students are getting their visas revoked because they were pro-Palestine. AOC is a part of the squad, and the squad, which I don't really care for, and the squad was very pro-Palestine. And so I don't hear AOC saying very much about that anymore. And she's just out, doing these rallies with Bernie Sanders. I know last week, perhaps it's this week, and I think it was last weekend, they appeared at Coachella, which is odd. I mean, I know those tickets are pretty high dollar at Coachella, and right now, I mean, the country is facing some economic problems, potentially some very serious economic problems. And I don't know that the people at Coachella are people who would really be affected by some of the things that this country may be having in its future. I don't know that people at Coachella will be affected at all. They definitely won't be affected first. So it's interesting to me that that's the crowd that they chose to get in front of. And they're in states like Montana, which I can respect, honestly. I can respect that. I'll give them credit because they're trying to turn Montana blue. We'll see how that all pans out, but I am not impressed. The progressives, again, leading up to the election, I personally had arguments with people on Twitter about this very issue and about how they were very much for Palestine and they wanted to punish Biden and Harris because they didn't like how they were handling the affairs in with Israel and the Palestinians. And a lot of people said, hey, it's not going to be good for the Palestinians if Trump gets in office. And sure enough, now Trump is talking about removing the Palestinians and turning Gaza into a resort. And all those people have gotten to be very quiet. So I don't know. I am not in favor of progressives at all. They're also very much in favor of trans issues. And again, I remember having conversations on Twitter when I was on Twitter saying, "Hey, how do you really think that that would work out for you if Trump got reelected?" And they were like, "Well, we don't care. We are standing with the Palestinians." But I feel like all of those protests have really quieted down. So, I mean, I just really feel like progressives were just really trying to kind of undermine the Harris campaign, honestly. And as far as Bernie Sanders, I feel like he was put out there to kind of undermine Hillary Clinton in 2016. And I actually gave Bernie Sanders a chance in 2016. I was open to listening, and I did some research on his views. Now, one thing that Bernie Sanders talked about a lot was, free healthcare and free higher education. My response when I heard that was, okay, well, how are you going to do that? And then I looked into his platform, and I didn't see him discuss how that was going to be done in any great detail. So, I mean, I really couldn't support him any further because to me it just seemed like he was just kind of selling pipe dreams. So, yeah, I just couldn't quite buy it. Bernie Sanders is also in his 80s. A lot of the same people that support Bernie Sanders didn't like Biden because they said that he was too old. So, I mean, that's very hypocritical. And, okay, and again, more on Bernie Sanders and his politics. He does want kind of a socialist nation. And when I did my research on him, I did find an article where Bernie Sanders said that he wanted, and this is a paraphrase, this is something I read probably like 9 years ago or 10 years ago. And he said something like he wanted the United States to run like Denmark. The United States cannot run like Denmark. First of all, there's far, far more people in the United States than in Denmark or in Canada, which has a national healthcare system. So, I mean, that's going to be a big difference. And the thing in the United States is that, I mean, there's a lot of racism in this country, and people don't like social programs because they feel like they benefit black people too much. That's primarily it. Also, like single moms, and there's some overlap there with black people. Like, that's also like overlapped with racism as well. In these Scandinavian countries, for the most part, they are all the same ethnic background. And in these Scandinavian countries, they have started to deport a lot of the foreigners. So, yeah, the United States is not going to operate like Denmark. I mean, it's just not. I mean, socially, we're just different, and just logistically, it's just a different setup. So that's just ridiculous. And he never ever goes into detail. And progressives, they like to complain that Kamala Harris didn't win a primary, but neither did Sanders. So I don't understand what they're still complaining about. I mean, Sanders was in the primary, he lost. So, yeah, I mean, it's just kind of a done deal. And he did not run a good campaign. And they talk a lot about messaging, but all Republicans really do is just rage bait. And I mean, Democrats don't really do that on the same level. So, yeah, I'm not real big into progressives. They are not my cup of tea at all. But good luck to them. And another thing, a lot of the Bernie Sanders supporters, I mean, they were sore losers, and they were just really upset that the Democrats did not vote for Bernie Sanders and choose him to be the candidate in 2016. But another thing about Bernie Sanders is that he's an independent. He's not a registered Democrat. Why didn't he try and get on the Republican ticket? So, seeing as how Sanders is not even a registered Democrat, why are they mad at the Democrat Party for not choosing Bernie Sanders? Like, they don't owe him anything. So, yeah, there's that. I'm not super impressed by AOC either. Again, she's a part of the squad. And even as far as the squad is concerned, she was not one of the most vocal people. Again, I don't like them, but I just feel like she had their back, but like way back. And she just kind of inserts herself, wherever she can get the most attention. And I don't really see that she's accomplishing a lot. Oh, and another thing about progressives, they are really supporting, let's say, AOC and Bernie Sanders, but Al Green, he got escorted out of Trump's, was it the State of the Union address? But one of Trump's speeches on the Capitol, he got escorted out by security. Um, Jasmine Crockett has been speaking up quite a bit. And gosh, what is this? Is it Booker? Cory Booker? He did that filibuster for 25 hours. I mean, he talked for 25 hours in a filibuster, and he didn't say a bunch of silly, stupid stuff like Ted Cruz did some years back when he filibustered. And I feel like they are not being given enough credit. Meanwhile, people are also throwing got Hakeem Jeffries under the bus. Hakeem Jeffries is not the problem, and he's not wrong. What leverage do the Democrats have right now? They don't have a lot, and that's due to voters. I mean, honestly, I think there probably was some cheating, but I'm just going to go ahead and just accept the results and say, well, I mean, the voters, they did not empower the Democrats, so the Democrats don't have a lot of power. So I don't understand why everyone got mad at Hakeem Jeffries. But again, I think that a lot of so-called progressives are racist. It's just they're not MAGA. They just don't agree with MAGA. So yeah, I am not a fan of the progressives at all. The only thing that they have going for them is that they haven't really been empowered, so they don't have a body of work to criticize. But I remember when I used to be on Twitter, a lot of these people, these progressives, they want the US to be like Cuba. So I bet that's why they really don't mind Trump that much. Um, yeah, they just want everything to be like Cuba, and I don't understand how that appeals to them. Yeah, I mean, healthcare. I guess Cuba has nationalized healthcare, so there's that. So I don't know. I don't know what to say about the progressives. And I made a video right after the election in November, and I just said, listen, I honestly believe that Americans chose Trump because they prefer the white career con artist and business failure and influencer who was an influencer before social media to the black woman who actually was a very solid candidate. And again, I know that people want to debate about whether she's black or not. Okay, fine. They preferred the con artist and the tweaker to the biracial woman with immigrant parents. And I feel like a lot of progressives do not want to admit that. They really dance around it a lot, and they really just kind of avoid that. And the progressives also are like, at this point, it doesn't matter about party. At this point, we just need to do this, that, and the other. I've thrown my hands up. I give up because, like I just said, Americans chose the tweaker. Even if there was some cheating going on, I live in a red state. I have seen Trump flags and Trump bumper stickers and red hats. Trump has quite a bit of support out there. So I'm still very irritated by the whole thing. And progressives are just not really coming to terms with Americans prefer that, loudmouth that's on Twitter like 20 hours a day. Oh, well, he was. Now I guess he's on Truth Social. To Kamala Harris, who I don't care what anyone says, she was a solid candidate. That is my opinion. So as a black woman, I don't know what anyone wants for me. A lot of people say they're in their soft girl era. I'm not going to say that. I'm not saying that I'm in my soft girl era or that I am not interested or concerned about anything going on. It's that I do not think that people are interested in my input. So I'm not going to say anything, other than this channel, and probably about 20 people are going to watch this video. So, this is between me and, that 10, 20 people that might watch this. So that is my take on this. I am not impressed with the progressives. I do not like them. I certainly hope that AOC nor Bernie Sanders are, well, I mean, 2028, I mean, that's so far off, I mean, at this point, we've got to take things day by day. But I'm just not impressed with Bernie Sanders or AOC. I saw a photograph of AOC's district, not a photograph, but it was like a graph, a photo of AOC's district in New York City. It's mostly water. Now, of course, I mean, it's AOC, or I'm sorry, it's New York City. So the population is very dense. I mean, I know that is probably a very dense population, and she represents a lot of people. But I just looked at the picture. I'm like, okay, yeah, that she is representing water mostly. But it was just kind of a joke in my mind. And in all the years that Sanders has been in Senate, he really hasn't done much. I mean, Bernie Sanders is almost like how people think that federal workers are, just, get a job and just cruise, for as absolutely long as possible, because I don't really see what Bernie Sanders has accomplished. He is from a state where they're kind of known to appreciate and value their privacy, and the government not being involved, so they would just like put anybody up there. At least that's my impression, and that's why he's been there so long, because they just want someone who's just going to mind their business and stay out of their business. So yeah, yep. Bernie Sanders is not it. AOC is not it. I am not impressed. There are some Democrats that are at least being outspoken. Like, that is the very least that they can do. But people don't really seem to want to give them credit and give them attention and support. And again, I do think that the progressives are really just kind of lazy, lazy racist. And they're kind of lazy too, because I just don't quite understand what their vision is. They say that they want health care, and okay, this was just like one person. He seemed to want America to operate like Cuba. Okay, I don't know that Trump doesn't really want America to kind of operate like Cuba, and we might be, kind of like coasting towards that. But I just don't really agree with their stances. And I guess they want, more trans rights, but it seems to me that trans already has their, I mean, they've gotten what they wanted. And of course, there was some pushback as far as people born male participating in female sports, and, certain public facilities, which I definitely think that they were right to do. It's kind of bizarre to me how the trans community or the LGBT community were surprised that there was some pushback. I mean, it's weird to me that they were surprised that people didn't just totally go along with that. I was just like, really, what do you expect? And then they went and called everyone bigots. But again, they said, we are pro-Palestinian. We want, what's his name, Biden and Kamala Harris to pay for how they're, operating in the Middle East. So, I mean, they kind of made their choice there. So, anyway, that is what I have to say for now. I just wanted to talk about Progressives for a little bit, and AOC and Sanders at Coachella over the weekend, talking to them because, yeah, those are the people who are really concerned with, you know, manufacturing in the U.S. and workers' rights and labor laws and such. I could be wrong, but I just don't think that that is the crowd that is really interested in what are typically what I personally think of as Democrat policies. And I mean, of course, Coachella's in California, so at that point, they're kind of just like, I don't know, preaching to the choir. Montana that was probably a good move, though. You know, talking to people in some of these red states is probably a good move for now. We'll see what happens in 2028, because people don't really seem to remember things year by year. So, yeah, there was something else I was going to. Oh, yeah, I did want to talk about manufacturing real quick. So, Trump is talking about how he wants to bring manufacturing back to the U.S. He said that during his first term, didn't happen. And so now he says that that is why he is wanting to place tariffs on all these different countries. And then he backed off and just focused on China. But whatever, he says that he wants, more manufacturing in the United States. However, oh yeah, I did say this on this channel once before. These jobs are no longer union. When manufacturing jobs were really good jobs, that was all union labor. And all Americans that are alive right now have enjoyed some of the fruits of organized labor, because I mean, union activity was very strong and made a lot of strides like 100 years ago. So now Trump and the Republicans are trying to roll back labor laws, environmental protections, regulations, child labor laws, and now Trump's saying, oh yeah, let's bring back manufacturing. No, let it stay in China. I don't have anything against China personally, but I would rather all that stuff be over there than here. First of all, I don't even think it's going to just work. Like, it's just not going to work. I mean, the culture is different and people are just different. So, yeah, I just simply don't think it's going to work. But, yeah, we don't want that manufacturing here. There's a lot of like infrastructure and laws that need to be put into place before anyone starts talking about bringing that kind of manufacturing here. And also, the skill sets I think are different, like sewing and stuff like that. Um, there are a lot of people who sew like as a hobby. There are a handful of people who do that for a living, but it's, for the most part, it's a skill set that's kind of died off in the United States over the last 50 to maybe 30 years or so. So yeah, that's not going to work. And maybe it's an urban myth or something, but some people are talking about, yeah, we want iPhones to be made in America. I heard people in China were offing themselves at the factory in China where they made iPhones. Like, they had nets around some of the buildings so people wouldn't jump out the window. Now, I don't know if that's true. Maybe that's an internet rumor. I don't know. But it does not sound pleasant. That is not what we want here. That is not making America great at all. Like, that is not what we want. Like, let's stop trying to make this country just a big old race to the bottom. And progressives aren't helping. I don't see it. I think that, I'll give them credit, I think they're slightly better. Slightly. But I really don't think that they could even run a pizza shop, honestly, if given the chance. So they're not my cup of tea. So, we'll see what happens in the future. Anyway, have a wonderful day. Thank you. Bye.